Kevin J. Johnston, the #1 name in the land of the North, he's risen to fame. 40 years deep in the law he's read. Now the CRA shakes in fear and dread. Stop paying tax forever, my friend. With Kevin J. Johnston, the fight doesn't end. Corporate debt, he'll make it all good. He's the man the CRA misunderstood. They vanish like mist when Kevin shows up with his legal fist. No more matching, no more lies, just clean-cut books and clear blue skies. Stop paying tax forever, my friend. With Kevin J. Johnston, the rules start to bend. The CRA can scream and shout, but Kevin knows how to throw them out. They claim they've got the final say, but Kevin proves there's a better way. He fights for truth, he fights for you, and teaches what the courts won't do. Forever today. Let Kevin J. Johnston show you the way. The expert, the rebel, the man with a plan. He's saving this nation, one client per hand. He's got 40 years of tax law knowing and corporate skills that keep cash flowing. GST, payroll, all in line. He'll save your neck and every dime. He studied law, both civil crime, and makes tax code sound so sublime. With stand-up jokes and punchlines tight, he makes your seminar a night of light. Kevin J, Kevin J, CRA just runs away. He's the tax manslayer with a legal plan, the best-looking genius in the land. Kevin J, Kevin J, taking all your tax away. If the government's scared, then it's safe to say he's the hero of the North, Kevin J. 2 million women cast their vote, said Kevin's hot, that's all she wrote. The suits at CRA can't compete, he's beaten them clean without deceit. 100 mil he's saved so far, he's raising truth like a legal star. And if you think you owe the state, he'll show you how to terminate. Kevin J, Kevin J, CRA just runs away. He's the tax manslayer with a legal plan, the best-looking genius in the land. Kevin J, taking all your tax away. If the government's scared, then it's safe to say
Kevin J. Johnston here, and welcome to episode number 68 of the Tax and Money Show. Tonight's episode is called Lawyers Suck and How to Protect Your Home. We're going to be talking a little bit about everybody's misconceptions and ridiculous perceptions on how the law really works in Canada, and that is in reference to home ownership and so on. I made a simple video on Instagram. Here's how it works. I said in this video, and it was just 6 o'clock in the morning, you could see that my eyes were glazed because I had just woken up, and I was testing to see if putting a video up before 6:30 in the morning was actually going to get more traffic. We're experimenting with all of the algorithms here on social media. So I put this video out before 6:30 in the morning where I state that when you have a fully paid off house, you need to completely protect it by A, moving it into a numbered corporation, and then B, opening up a second corporation, signing a contract with that second corporation, failing in the contract terms, and then using the second corporation that you control to put a $20 million lien on your property. Then what we do is write corporate bylaws stating that the lien that we have placed on the residential property is there specifically and only to be the first in line when it comes to any other liens that may be placed, which means when you die, your kids just go, hey guys, look, right? Look at this. It was done by my dad just for kicks. And no, it's not fraud at all. Everybody says that. This is what irritates me about all these armchair lawyers out there. No, it is not fraud because you are allowed to sign contracts with your own corporations and then enforce those contracts when you fail in your obligations to yourself. Completely legal. So T.A. Bowski, you're absolutely incorrect on that. You can sign contracts with anyone. You can sign contracts with God if you want to. There you go. And it's enforceable by utilizing the courts to place liens on your property. So everyone, just like we have had a comment here of someone saying that's fraud, which of course it is not. This is what triggered tonight's show. This is a comment by a very homely looking woman who had something like 200 followers on her. Okay, Tabowski, you're out of here. Hold on. We got trolls tonight. Click and block. Bye. Block. There we go. When people come in here and they want to troll, you're gone. Okay. If you have a problem with what I am saying, leave. That's how it works. If you're not going to leave and be rude, I'm just going to get rid of you. Besides, this is my show. Fungu if you don't like it. All right. Getting back to it. This woman decides to write a statement on the comments of the video that I had made about how to protect your home. She has no followers. I don't know who she is, and I couldn't find a website where she is a lawyer that has any merit or knowledge in law. I couldn't find a company that hired her. So here we go. She says that her name is Ty Davis, T-A-I-S Davis. And instantly, it starts off the wrong way with a laughy face with tears in it. That's what children do. So you got a laughy face with tears. Taking legal advice from someone on Instagram. As a lawyer, I always love that. As a lawyer, I can tell you if you follow this advice, you'll be paying thousands in land transfer tax, not to mention lose your principal residence exemption on the sale and paying 25% capital gains with the result of zero benefit and significant cost. Well, we've covered this one before. If you are foolish enough to tell the CRA that you sold a house, which you have no legal obligation to do, well, then they're going to tax you. That's right. They'll tax you. What she's talking about is if you have a principal residence in Canada, it's yours. You put your own name on it. When you sell it, you don't have to declare the earnings on it. You get to keep all the money when it's sold, minus the mortgage. And let's say you have two houses, one that you rent out to other people. The CRA wants you to report and snitch on yourself. So they'll state that we want you to tell us about your capital gain. If you bought a rental property and sold it, we want the earnings on your rent, and then we want the money on the capital gain. And if you move a house into a corporation and then sell the house out of the corporation, if you tell the CRA what you've done, sure, you're going to pay capital gains. Remember what we said here, everyone? Section 150 of the Income Tax Act. Tax returns are optional. The Canada Revenue Agency is not a police force. They cannot enforce any of the rules they've got stating that you shall, not must, shall do a tax return. Well, they shall kiss it because I ain't doing it if I don't feel like doing it. So the individual that said all this wants to play the laughy face game and then state that you're going to lose all kinds of money. She said land transfer tax. Yeah, if you're dumb like her, you'll pay land transfer tax. If you're smart like me, you don't. Here's how you do it. This is you. This is your house right here. This is you right here. You're on title. We add your numbered corporation to title. Let it sit there for 10 to 30 days. And then, ready for this? We remove you. No land transfer tax, no contracts, no sales, no nothing. You can add and subtract 10,000 people a day to the title of your house if you want to. I don't recommend it, but you have the right to do so. You can switch and interchange and intermix whenever you want, everybody. So that lawyer is not a good lawyer, and that lawyer's opinion is conducive to all of the failures out there, accountants and tax lawyers who don't know what they're talking about. Or they know that what I'm doing is legal, but they'll say, oh no, that Johnston guy, he's not a lawyer and it's illegal. And the Canada Broadcasting Corporation once said that he's racist, so he doesn't know his stuff. That's what they say. It's unreal. Every single time I write a letter off to a lawyer, they send links over to articles on the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation's website where some loser at the CBC has called me racist. And that is supposed to be an argument. That is supposed to be some kind of legal conversation. And then whenever I point that out to judges in court saying, I don't know what this article is all about. It seems to have positively nothing to do with the case, Your Honor. I'm wondering if perhaps we could have a recess or perhaps an in-camera meeting here to discuss the merits of this particular individual being highly unprofessional. I don't think this person can actually represent their client, not with behavior like this. It's childish. Lawyers have got to be careful, especially when offering stupid opinions like that. So that is what triggered tonight's show. Now, let's go through some of the comments from that video. Be careful. The principal residence exemption is unavailable to corporations. Further personal use property owned by a corporation will result in taxable benefits being applicable to the individual shareholders. The relevant position under the Income Tax Act that requires a taxable benefit is subsection 15.1. Sure, if you have a corporation, everybody, and the property is in the corporation, and you decide to snitch on yourself, which you legally do not have to do, of course you're going to pay capital gains. Why do all of you out there continue to answer questions from the government? Why do all of you out there insist on telling anybody what you've got? You know, the world is so screwed up right now that none of you should even be discussing with your friends what you own. If you've bought something, don't tell them. If you've struck it rich in Bitcoin, don't tell them. If you win the lottery, don't tell them. You know, I do from time to time play with people. There's some folks out there that like to watch what I do, and they're always curious what I'm up to. So I'll say stuff like, dude, you're not going to believe this. I went to the casino last night, all right? And I slapped down $26,000 US on black on the roulette table, and I won. Yeah, you believe that? 26 grand in 5 minutes. And go, whoa, really? That's amazing. And then all of a sudden the rumor mill starts. Did you hear Johnston won on roulette? People are weird. So that is why I tell these stories to these idiots out there. And you got to do the same thing. You got to do the same thing, folks. You always have to just let people know BS. Don't tell them anything true about yourselves, especially the government. And the individual who wrote that comment is only correct if you choose to snitch on yourself, which I'm encouraging all of you not to do. Here's the next comment that came in from Anthony_Payne Pinto. He went to ChatGPT, by the way. Nobody types as structuredly as ChatGPT does. Why this doesn't work. One, CRA liens are super priority. When a CRA registers a tax lien, it becomes a secured creditor. Their claim is enforceable even if the property is already encumbered. Wrong answer. Why? because the CRA goes to tax court to get that ruling, and Canadian tax court has no jurisdiction over property and has no jurisdiction over equity. So if the CRA gets a lien placed on your property and the order came from tax court, we go to the Superior Court of the province and say, hey, listen, we got to get rid of that lien. And it works every time, because when a court has no jurisdiction, it has no business writing orders that it legally cannot enforce. Back to it, he says, CRA can still seize or force a sale of the property, even if another lien is present, particularly if they determine the other lien is not legitimate or was placed to obstruct collections. Okay, let me tell you what's wrong with that. The Canada Revenue Agency does not have its own lawyers. The Canada Revenue Agency has to make a phone call to the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice has really awful DEI hire lawyers. I've met a few of them. They're not smart people. I can tell you that right now. I'm not one bit concerned about any of them. And those DEI lawyers cost the CRA up to $10,000 a day. Now, why would the CRA spend $10,000 a day to collect $50,000 from you? They're not going to do it, which is why the CRA doesn't sue people. And because the Canada Revenue Agency got their asses handed to them this year in court, when they went to Shopify, I hate Shopify. Just for the record, I can't stand those people, but I am happy that they took the CRA to court. The Canada Revenue Agency chose to ask them or demand from them all of their clients, the entire client list. They weren't looking for anything specific. They just wanted everybody. And they said no. Finally, someone's got balls in Canada. They said no and took the CRA to court, and they won. That is correct. The CRA won. Sorry, Shopify won, and the CRA had to tuck tail, and now the CRA is no longer allowed to make blanket requests for information. So this guy who went to ChatGPT seems to be about 10 years behind in the actual rulings. I don't think ChatGPT, when it's looking up any rulings with the Canada Revenue Agency, is actually reading case law off of canley.org. It's looking at articles written by lawyers. Never a good idea to read those. Next, he says, 2, artificial liens may be rejected or removed. If you file a phony $20 million lien without a valid documented debt, a judge or the Land Titles Office can deem it fraudulent, baseless, or abusive. Right. But if you have a contract that went from here to here and then there to there, and you sued yourself, it's completely legit. You know, your brother, you could make a deal with your brother, and your brother could go ahead and file the lien against your property. Why not? That can absolutely happen. So who's to say that it's illegitimate? The only way for the judge to know it's illegitimate is if you decided to go on the stand and say, oh, yeah, I did this just for kicks. Well, then you're screwed. But you don't have to go on the stand in Canada. So they can guess, but the judge can't make a ruling against you if he has no evidence. And the only evidence would be speculation, and that's not evidence. Keeping going here. Courts routinely remove liens that are not backed by enforceable contracts, loaned, or secured obligations. Okay, well, that might be true. You know where that is true is when boyfriends and girlfriends and whatnot decide that they want to put liens on each other's properties, you know, because they're angry about the breakup. Sure, that kind of a contractor's lien goes away. But if it's a lien that's placed there because a contract was written and then failed and then you sued each other and so on, that's not illegitimate. That's completely backed up by the courts. Too bad for you. Next, he says, 3, potential criminal and civil penalties. The CRA, Land Titles Office, or law enforcement may view this as an attempt to obstruct justice, tax evasion, or fraudulent conveyance. The cops don't care about the CRA. The cops don't call the CRA saying, hey, we're looking to charge some people because we're bored. They don't do that. So the cops are not going to be involved. And as for the Land Titles Office, they can't just make a snap decision without a court order. So this guy's a bit of a tool. And on top of all of that, anybody out there who wants to have this lien removed because they say that it's not legitimate has to file a motion in the court to have it lifted. It doesn't just get lifted because ChatGPT says so. You have to use the process. And then he says, you risk being charged under the Income Tax Act, the Excise Tax Act, and the Provincial Land Titles Fraud Statutes. None of those are laws, by the way. They're rules and suggestions. But the only way for this to happen is for you to do something stupid like shoot your mouth off. Hi, I put a lien on my own property for the sole purposes of dodging taxes. And let's also go down the road here. When the lien goes on the property and it's based on a lawsuit, it stays. Now, you got to renew it every 2 to 6 years, depending on which province that you're in. So just renew it. And if somebody else decides that they want to come in and grab your property, well, they can't because there's a $20 million lien there. What are they going to do? If you owe someone $25,000, do you think they're going to hire a lawyer for $50,000 to take you to court to petition the judge to state that the lien may be fraudulent? Or do they tuck tail and just walk away? I've seen everyone just tuck tail. If you're going to sue people, you always have to factor in what are the costs going to be? And what are my chances of winning? And if I win, will I be able to enforce the judgment? That's the other big one. How do you enforce it? Enforcement is everything. The only reason that the police can enforce laws in Canada is because they have got body armor, pepper spray, and guns. That's it. If cops in Canada didn't have guns, I don't think anybody would really listen to them, because what's the point? The only reason that we obey their authority is because we're afraid of being shot. And cops are getting crazier as time goes on. I know all about them. That's it. How do you enforce? The cops have guns and the Canadian courts have guns, but they still have to follow their own rules. That's the thing here, is the court rules have been set up, and if they don't follow them, they can actually get disciplined immensely. All right, let's get back to this now. We've got Lord Duncan says, if your house is paid, just have the bank do a line of credit. That way you still technically owe money against it. All right. He's thinking, he's not wrong. If you have a completely paid off house, you could go and get a line of credit against the house. But you now owe a third party. That's right. You owe a third party that money. Why wouldn't you want to control your own lien? So if let's say you just take out $20,000. In order for a lien to really be protecting you, the lien has to be equal value to the property or surpass it. I'm not getting a bank loan for the full amount of my paid off house to protect it. I'm going to write liens against myself. Thank you very much. Strategy, though, that he's talking about that is useful is a good friend of mine came to me a few years ago. He was in Edmonton and wanted to pay off his house early, but he said he had to pay this massive penalty if he paid it off early. So I read the fine print and I said, well, then don't pay it off early. You got 10 more years. Actually, at the time, sorry, it was 8 more years to go because it was a 10-year mortgage. You have 8 years to go. Pay everything but $10,000. And what will happen is these $2,000 payments are going to drop to like $140. So you just make payments, and it's going to cost you a bit more interest, but there's no penalty for paying it off early, and they're still making interest. And what they might say is that they no longer want that mortgage on the books because they have to administer it, and they might go ahead and just say, you're off the hook. Play the game. Just play the game. So number 5 here, D9 Delta 9 says, ownership creates liability to pay tribute or to greedy creditors. Similar to playing hot potato, the assets are hot potatoes, and if you're holding them, you then get burned. And I completely understand where this guy is going with that statement. What he's saying here is that too much can go wrong in life, and he's correct. Way too much can go wrong. You can get sued. Some idiot can walk on your front porch, fall and break his leg and sue you. You could have someone just doesn't like you, and they start putting liens on a house that's in your personal name. The cops may not like you, and they just show up because it's easy for them to find you if your name is on the property, and so on. So what he's getting at there is if your name is on the house, anybody can come after your house to take it from you. He's right. That statement is actually quite correct. So if that's going to be the case, you want to put a lien on your own property. And for those out there that say that it's fraud, again, like the clown I tossed out of the room earlier, it is not fraud when it's a contract that goes back and forth. There you go. All right, so D9 Delta 9 also says about what I said, this is correct asset protection trust info for your home. Lien the crap out of your home. Make it look like you own nothing and there is no equity. Corrupt criminal politicians, municipal, and other greedy creditors will see that there is no value. Right. That's correct. This guy got it right. Lien the crap out of your own house. Make it a lien that you control. And if it's a lien that you control, you can take it off anytime you want. Yeah, excellent. I like this guy. And he also says, this is called the first in line doctrine. Courts will look who is first in line. So the CRA does not automatically become number one, especially considering the fact that the CRA, whenever they get these liens or place these liens on there, they never use due process. They never sue you and win. They just put it there utilizing the judges in tax court, and those guys have no jurisdiction over property. All right. So it's never valid, which is why CRA liens are so easy to dodge. Yeah, they're actually a lot easier to dodge than you think. All right. The next one here. Nikki Sim says land transfer tax on the transfer from personal to corp. I've already covered that. Remember, if you just add your numbered corporate, your house, add the numbered corporation and remove you, and nope, absolutely not. There is no tax that has to happen there because you're just adding a corporation to the title and then removing yourself. Completely legal. They don't like that because they don't get their tax money, but we are not here to make the Canadian government happy. We're here to keep our money where it belongs, in our own pocket. Next slide. What happens if the government passes a bill to prevent everything that I mentioned in the video and, of course, everything else that I talk about on the show? Well, Mark Carney is a freak and a maniac, and he's highly unpopular with world governments. He's exceptionally unpopular with Trump. Trump's going to spank this guy something fierce, I'll tell you that. And he's got a minority government. So even if he wants to change laws, he's not going to get the support of the NDP because he's not granting them party status anymore. And he won't get the support of the Conservatives. There you go. Nobody wants Carney in there. Nobody wants Carney to win, except for maniacs across the country who are far left and so on. So to get back to that, I'm not one bit concerned about it at all. It'll take at least 6 years for the law to change to prevent this. All right. Next, our Mumsies says, don't you lose principal home tax exemption when you sell the house if it's in a numbered company? Yes, if you snitch on yourself when you sell it. And if you don't snitch on yourself, no. You lose nothing. You get to keep all of your money. All right, we got a long one here. DVC Max says, a tax lien would likely be considered a super lien. Again, where do people get this stuff from? And take priority over a personal property lien. Failing that, creditors would seek relief under the Fraudulent Conveyances Act. Losing the principal residence exemption is another concern. Plan carefully. These types of people that say this stuff, they're old school thinkers. You could tell that he's probably my age or older. And there's a lot of people my age and older who don't think and still think it's 1970. And that is a very, very bad thing for all of you. It is no longer 1970. The rules of the 70s no longer apply. In fact, the rule of law in Canada no longer applies. The judges are all crooks in Canada. They do whatever they want. The cops are all crooks in Canada. They do whatever they want. And the municipalities are so broke that they're going to try and steal as many houses as they possibly can. The goal here is to make sure that you control your property and you control the debt on the property. Everybody wants to talk about this super lien nonsense. There's no such thing. The super lien, if there is one, would be the bank that's granted you the mortgage. That's who's got the super lien, and they get paid first. That is how that works. So let's get rid of him. Next question, next statement. So TCP was asking that guy, does it not also count as a sale? So if your house has appreciated, you would pay capital gains. Yeah, you'll pay capital gains every time you snitch on yourself. All right. I'm going to keep saying it until everybody gets it. So shh. Next. Lon Knight Jr. Hey, question. My dad died with no bills, but when we tried to put the house in my name, all of a sudden there was a lien on the house from some company no one knows, saying we have to pay. I'm still dealing with this problem. Any ideas? I have a lawyer, but I don't trust them either. This happens a lot. Okay, let me tell you something. God bless my mother. I love my mother, right? She's been dead for a while. But my mother was one of those people that just couldn't say no to anyone. She always felt guilty when someone asked her to do something that she had no obligation to do. She would not, like me, tell people to F off, middle finger in the face, or just hang up the phone. She would talk to these idiots. And she ended up getting 2 water tanks, 2 HEPA filters and a furnace and so on. And then there was liens placed on the property for over $140,000. Now, I won that in court, but that's the type of thing that happens. When people get old, for some reason, they get really stupid. I don't get it. How is it that you can go from being intelligent, maybe they never were, but everyone just gets stupid in their 60s and their 70s and start believing everything, going back to the child mentality of, oh, no, I feel bad. This person wants me to fill something out because it's good for them. No. It's not good for anyone. It's bad for you. So liens like that come up all the time. And that's, of course, your father's or your dead relative's fault for not putting a house in a corporation in the first place and simply stating that the corporate shares will default to you upon death. No lawyer is required. You really got to protect your estates. God, man, nothing can be in your name. I'm going to keep saying that too. Next thing that came up, what about corporate tax on capital within the corporation? Well, that's up to you if you want to report it. Again, you snitch on yourself, you pay tax. You shut up, you don't pay tax. Next one was, what if I just leverage the equity? And then that's Drygerzaic, I guess. And then the reply comes in from too low below zero. Then you have to worry about an actual lender and their rights over you. That is absolutely correct. If you were to try to protect your house by going to a private lender to put a lien on there, you got to pay them and you got to pay their interest rates. And not only that, everybody, but you're subjecting yourself to somebody who might enter into a bit of financial difficulty and then call in the loan early. And if you don't do it, then what they'll do is try to take you to court, maybe even foreclose on the home. It's not a good scene. So I would say, everybody, that you need to stop listening to the armchair lawyers out there. I'm not saying just listen to me and nobody else. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, though, is I'm the one who's researched this, and I'm the one who the CRA is terrified of because of the things I do to these people. I despise them. The Labor Board of Ontario is upset with me because I utilized language that they say is disgusting and racist. Good. I'm glad they're upset. But because the CRA knows I'm going to fight back, there's very few stunts they pull on me and or my clients. But if you don't have a reputation with the CRA or with the Labor Board or whatnot, they're going to chase you until you fight back. How do you fight back? Don't start a fight in the first place. Put everything you own into numbered corporations and then put liens against your own properties. All right, let's get rid of that slide. Moving on to the next one. Bry Guy out west says, be careful. The principal residence exemption is unavailable for corporations. So we've already covered that one. And I've covered that one. Oh, this one's my favorite. Whole Nutmegs says, and I'm going to say it the way that it sounds to me. Ready? With the hands. Pay your taxes so the Canada Revenue Agency doesn't put a lien on your property. Simple. By whole nutmeg or nuthead or nutcase or left-wing nut or whatever you want to call yourself, by all means, pay your taxes. I'm not going to stop you. If you want to give money to the Canada Revenue Agency, you go right ahead. That is somebody who doesn't think. That is somebody who is bought into phraseology such as, we all have to pay our fair share. Says who? Said, and what's fair? Let me ask you this. What do you actually get for your money? Right now, the education system sucks. Kids are morons because we, as a society, allowed our education system to be taken over by disgusting LGBTQ nut jobs. So it's indoctrination, no longer education. We've allowed our entire society to collapse. So what benefit do any of you get from those tax dollars? If you don't do tax returns, or you do your tax returns at a loss, you're never going to have a tax bill. Then you don't have to worry about this. But because the CRA plays dirty, they are filthy animals. They are filthy criminals. You have to protect yourself with this. So everyone, her name is Whole, HWHOLE_NUTMEGS, Whole Nutmegs, telling all of you to pay your taxes. Okay, next. El Armino says, but if the lien isn't actioned within 3 to 6 months or so it can be irrelevant. Can't put a lien on a house forever. At some point, it needs to be actioned. Otherwise, it'll go dormant. Well, he's correct. You don't just put a lien on someone's house and then not act upon it. You have to perfect the lien. So you put a lien on someone's property and then you sue them. That's right. You sue them. And that is what the lien is for, is to stop you from selling the house prior to the court case being dealt with. And the CRA doesn't sue people. So we simply go to a judge in provincial court and have the lien removed, because all I do at that point is we send in legal documentations. We utilize clause 7 of the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights that states that we are disputing the entire tax bill. And whilst any tax bill is under dispute, we do not owe tax. And because we do not owe tax, there cannot be a tax lien on the property. Your Honor, please remove it. And he will. It can all be done, folks. You just got to have a little bit of balls. Not much, just a bit. Then this woman here, I hear this kind of crap all the time. My God. First off, before we read this out on for Instagram and Kick, I used to do stand-up comedy, and it's not an easy job to do. You got to write jokes, you got to land jokes, and sometimes you got to recognize who the audience is. And after, I'm going to have to say after about 2015, it became incredibly boring to be a comedian in Canada, because everybody was so uptight, and I think everyone forgot what jokes are. So what I would tell you, though, is that when I'm writing jokes, I do not use sarcasm. Sarcasm is not funny. Sarcasm is the display of an incredibly weak mind. Anyone can do it. If something can be done by a 4-year-old, it's not clever at all. You know, it's this guy named Wayne I grew up with. I would ask a simple question because, I'm 9. Why would I not answer the question? Is that your bike? Then you hear stupid crap like, no, actually, it's the bike of Jesus Christ. He's going to ride it later. It's not funny. Sarcasm is not funny. You know what it is? It's vitriolic, it's nasty, and it's mean, and it makes you look stupid is what it does. So we got a sarcastic comment here from an adult who should know better. Her name is Jane.McNamee. She says, yeah, it's a terrible idea to own a paid off house. How ridiculous. Okay, well, Jane obviously didn't listen to the video at all. If you have a paid off house, you need to put a lien against it on your own lien. That was the video. It's great to have a paid off house because there's no more bills. I have not one, but 2 fully paid off condominiums in Panama. 2. One of them is a double decker and the other one's a single level. And as a result of having these places paid off, my life expenses are nothing, but they're hidden in numbered corporations. There you go. Panama's got considerably different laws. So there, as a gringo, there's no way for the country to take my property. It only needs protection inside the numbered corp. But in Canada, you want the lien against the property. So anybody who wants to be sarcastic, I would encourage you not to be, because it does not make you look clever. Actually, sarcasm sickens me. And I remember coaching hockey and soccer and lacrosse and a few other sports. And as soon as kids would get sarcastic, okay, guys, that's it. Everyone, 5 laps. Let's go. Move it. Sarcasm. Not with me. I can't stand it. I don't use it. Be respectful, people. God, man, so stupid. Having a paid off house. So if it sounds stupid when I'm whining, it sounds stupid when you're saying it too. Next slide. Lock in whatever says, great way to waste your effing time and trip capital gains whenever you sell it. Again, another individual who did not listen to what I was saying, and another individual who simply does not know tax law or the law in general. So everyone, when you're going to reply to people, like, why do people swear? Why can't you just say, this may trigger capital gains? You could say something like that, but talking like that does not make you look smart. It makes you look angry. That's it. And then Hydrosize says I was too political in the advertisement because I did start off the video stating that we've put this left-wing government in, and the rules are going to change if you're not careful. And they'll try. It's not that Carney's going to be able to pass these laws, but they're going to try. So you may as well prep for the effort that they're going to bring forward. prep by putting a lien on your own property. Next, and how would they put a lien on a house that has no debt? That's a good question. And I'll repeat myself. You are opening up a separate corporation and putting a lien against the house from that corporation, a lien that you control for millions of dollars so that it burns up all the equity in the home. All of it. Next one. Won't they be looking for $20 million in profits if you have a $20 million lien on something? No, because a contract can be worth $20 million without a single penny changing hands. That's how it works. I mean, I'm sure everybody out there has made a deal with somebody and not been paid for it. Where would the money be if you didn't get paid for it? How could there be bank records in your own bank account if you've never been paid for it? So no, it's not a silly question, but it's also not a great question. Next one. What about property transfer tax when you transfer to a numbered corporation? And again, we've covered this. If you there's no land transfer tax. And if you simply add the numbered corporation to title and then remove yourself, there, of course, is no income tax. All right. Triamp Electrical Services says, does the same apply to property overseas? If you have property overseas, Canada, shut up about it. Why would you tell the Canadian government ever that you've got a property overseas? You're not legally obligated to tell them that. If you've made a deal with a government of another country, you don't have to tell the Canada Revenue Agency about it. You see, there are two countries where you got to pay to play. Two, the United States and Eritrea. Those are the only two countries in the world where you have to report foreign income and foreign property ownership and pay tax on it. The only two. Canada has no such thing. So, really, just stop. Next one. Too low below zero says, serious question. Couldn't a court declare the lien by the second corporation against the first frivolous, especially if there's no underlying debt or duty to perform by the first corporation? Yeah, that's a good question. But that's where the really well-written lawsuit would come in. Your paperwork just has to look as if a lawyer wrote it. Guess who does that for you now? ChatGPT. So by all means, you could tell ChatGPT to create a document where I'm going to place a lien on my own property, but you need to make it look like I got sued by a third party. It will. You got to keep in mind that you're not going to be the director of the corporation that sues you. You might be the shareholder, but you're not obligated to tell anybody who the shareholders are. So good question. And there's your answer. Next. Edjeige, Edjeige says, here we go again. This could be fraud and illegal. Now, he didn't want to commit to the answer, so he says, could be. Then he says, yes, controlling liens is a smart instinct, but faking them isn't the way to do it. The government may be bloated, taxing, and overreaching, but they also have legal machinery to sniff out fraud fast. There are ways to defend yourself, but they require legally defensible structure. Again, someone who's completely and totally wrong. It doesn't matter that the government is a big machine. The CRA is not a police force. They're just a bunch of losers working behind desks. That's all that they are. They don't have the power that they say they do and that you think they do. This is someone who probably went nowhere in life. They had a job, 9 to 5, and they paid their taxes. And I'm willing to bet they're scratching their heads thinking, why am I broke going into my retirement? It's because you think old school. That's why. It's not survival of the fittest at all. It is survival of those most adaptable to change. And everything is going to change all of the time. If you do not adapt, you die. That's just how it works. Next. Aren't you on the hook for land transfer tax? We've already answered that. No, not if you be quiet about it. And Copper Cactus says, I don't trust anyone with black eyeballs. Not useful. I don't know. Are they black? Come on, everybody. Hold on. Do I not look trustworthy? No? Would you trust this guy? Would I lie? Come on. Next. Here we go. Chef Garen says, who are you? This is BS. He doesn't say why he thinks it's BS. He doesn't make an argument. He doesn't present anything except for the statement that it's BS. Well, I mean, everyone's entitled to their own opinions. You don't have to take my advice. You don't have to hire me to do your taxes. You don't have to do any of that. Roxy379 says, Kevin, appreciate you for sharing what the 1% of the wealthy people do to get around the system. Thank you very, 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 very much. That is exactly what I'm teaching all of you here. This is how the elites, I hate that term, how the 1% of the world gets rich. Everything they own is in numbered corporations, and everything that they own has a lien on it by corporations they control. You want to talk about fraud? It ain't fraud if Barack Obama's doing it, if Justin Trudeau is doing it, if every celebrity that you know is doing it. Come on, think about this, folks. The rich are rich because they do what I'm telling you to do here. Next, Flatland Aviation says, or burn your house to the ground, collect insurance, and leave before they put a lien on it. I'm going to go ahead and recommend to each and every one of you out there not to burn your house to the ground and not to call your insurance company and try to get paid for something like that. Insurance inspectors are certainly better than police detectives. They are. And they're better than anyone who works for the CRA or even the banks. So please do not burn your house down and try to collect the insurance on it. That's just playing with fire. That has a double entendre. It's really stupid to do that. Please don't do that. All right. Next statement or question. Corey Van Kooten says, sounds a bit fishy and fraud-like. Are you a lawyer in Canada, or is this your opinion? Now, the slide, and I'm not here to mock people, but it looks like a married couple in their late 60s. And when you've got people in that age range, they are very eager to continue to believe it's the 1960s, it's the 1970s. All right, that's just back in the day. You bought a house, you put it in your name, you paid it off. You had bank accounts in your name, and it was really good to do that because then you would have credit with the bank whenever you wanted it, especially if you'd gone to that branch for years. But that's no longer the case at all. So that comment is kind of dumb. Ivan Jack P says, this guy is hilarious. Should do stand-up. He would be funny. Okay, well, thank you for that. I've done stand-up. It doesn't pay very well. So if I was doing stand-up in the States, I'm sure I could make a living at it, but I'm not interested in that life anymore. Being a comedian is a pain in the ass. It really is a pain in the ass. You know, when I was doing the Yuck Yuck circuit, Yuck Yucks had 4 locations that I had to go to. Niagara Falls, Ontario, Hamilton, Ontario, my hometown, Mississauga, Ontario, and then downtown Toronto and Queens Quay. So I would do the same show 4 times. I'd get up, do my 10-minute act, get some laughs, get some tips, get in the back of a car. A driver would take me from Niagara Falls to Hamilton. That took about 40 minutes. So I'd get to Hamilton. I'm tired from the car ride. I'm kind of agitated and whatnot. Do the same set, get some jokes. People in Hamilton were blue collar, so they'd laugh a bit more, which was kind of cool. Race over to Mississauga, do the same set at 10, and then get downtown Toronto and do my same jokes at midnight. It's a lot of work. And the pay was like $150 a night back then. It just wasn't worth it. You know, I got to hang out with other comedians, and I got a couple of times to hang out with Mark Breslin and whatnot, but I don't know. Why? Why would I do that? No, thank you. I'm done. All right, next. Oh, here we go. Enic05 looks like a 65-plus-year-old guy. This guy is so full of it. There's nothing owing for proceeds of a sale from your primary residence. What the hell is he talking about? This was a matter of if you own your house, everybody, 100% you got it paid off. Put a lien on your own house to protect it. That's what this is all about. What's this guy talking about? I don't think he knows either. Then John G. Robinson, 1964, again, somebody in their late 50s, early 60s. Dumbest idea I've ever heard of. Don't listen to this guy. And he's basing that on what exactly? And that would be his fear to learn something new. The vast majority of people react that way because they're simply afraid. They don't know. And because they don't know, in their minds, it mustn't be real. So they react like that. Insulting me isn't going to make you any more correct. And insulting me is certainly not going to make me less correct. Just how it is. Mark Gravit, 26, looks like a balding guy in his early 70s. You offer no solutions and keep expanding your ego on social media. Get off and get a job. Well, get a job is an exceptionally cliche thing to say. But I'm gonna cover that because why not? The reason I'm doing what I am doing today is because I returned to Canada from the United States after having been in the United States for 4 years in the year 2000. And I couldn't find any meaningful work. I had one job that was $52K a year, which kind of got on my nerves because I was used to making six figures in the States and working for a company who paid all my expenses. So it was a hell of a job. And then all this anti-white rhetoric started up. So I went looking for full-time work from the year 2002 all the way to the year 2016. 6,000 plus resumes at least. At least there was that many going out the door every day. Just send them out. And I would start changing my name to Muhammad Farouk Salim Salam, like things like that. And Stephanie and Susan and Jennifer and whatever other names out there that I felt might get me some attention. But because I used white names, I didn't get called up upon. And whenever I was using Indian or Islamic names, I would get phone calls. But then they would speak to me on the phone and they would hear that my English was perfect and they'd hang up the phone. I was actually told on multiple occasions, I'm sorry, we're just not hiring white males right now. I'm so sorry. We have to give everyone else a chance. Like, dude, for real? Who speaks like that? I'm in business to make money. Business to make money. So I have to sit back and think about who the best potential candidates would be for a job. And the odds of it being a Asian male or a white male are really high. So I would be targeting those two demographics when I'm looking to hire somebody within Canada. But that's not how all these losers saw it. So I was pretty miffed about the whole thing, which is why I became a very loud, very outspoken podcaster across Canada, because obviously white men are not allowed to do a damn thing. So here I am. Here I am working 18 hours a day, sometimes more, sometimes less, and I am saving Canadians millions of dollars. This is my job. I certainly work harder than that guy does. So his opinion means nothing. But I did want to cover the reason I am doing what I'm doing is that there were no jobs in Canada. And currently there are fewer jobs than there weren't in 2005 and 2009 and 2014 and so on. It's worse now. So I could tell this guy to go to Hair Club for Men and get himself a nice weave or something like that. I could also tell him that he's got bad manners and perhaps it's time to go to a finishing school, but none of that's going to make money. So let's move on to the next comment on this. Oh, Cameron Metcalf 988 says this guy is crazy. Another white dude in his late 60s. Again, guys, if you are over the age of 60 in Canada, I need you to look at a calendar and say to yourself, it's 2025. Yeah, it's not 1974. The 1970s and the 80s are gone. The prosperous times of 77 to 94 are gone. They're not coming back. The government is trying to take everything it possibly can from you, and I'm teaching you how to protect it. How is it that at age 54, seemingly I am the only guy in his 50s in Canada who is actually adapting to the new world that we live in? The world that we live in sucks. It aggravates me immensely that it's nothing but weak men and radical feminists in charge of everything. And as we've now learned over the last 2 decades, those two groups cannot function. They cannot build society. They can only tear it apart. That's exactly what's going on. So what do you do when that kind of maniac is in charge of your company and your country? and your province and your region and your education and even your churches in some cases. What do? You protect yourself by learning something new. I had a teacher in grade 8. His name was Mark Ferruccio. He eventually got fired because he couldn't keep his hands off all the girls in grade 8. We all, oh man, it was disgusting. And the whole school knew he was doing it. It wasn't until a brave girl went to the cops that this guy got punished. But Mark Ferruccio, that was his name. St. Gerard Elementary School. And if he's still alive, I certainly hope he dies of severe cancer to every part of his body. But what he said was, and I thought to myself, there's something wrong with what this guy is saying. He drew a chart. He says, throughout life, you learn a little bit when you're young. So he draws this line going, low. And then you learn a lot in grade school and high school. And then you get in your 40s and the learning tapers off and you don't learn very much. Thinking, that's not going to be me. Right? I'm not learning anything now. That's how I saw. When I was in school, I wasn't learning a damn thing that had any value whatsoever. I would see guys with Porsches and Lamborghinis and, hot cars, man. That's what I wanted. So I just kept filling my head with knowledge. I would say that I did this. I flatlined in school. And as soon as I got out of school and away from the babysitting centers that they call school, my knowledge base flew because I was now in the real world, which interested me a whole lot more than the fake world of school. School's not real, guys. It's a joke, is what it is. So don't ever think that you're incapable of learning something new. Let me tell you something I'm not going to learn how to do. I'm not going to learn how to do an 8-foot acid drop on a skateboard. All right. I'm not doing that. I have no interest whatsoever in learning how to do a backflip between two buildings that are 140 feet high. Not interested. That's not a skill I need. I'm interested in filling my head with knowledge so that I can win against these government agencies whom I cannot stand. And all of you out there need to fill your heads with knowledge as well. So just because some middle-aged guy is making a statement on Instagram, it doesn't mean that he's wrong. Many people are wrong on social media, but if you're going to say this guy is wrong, tell me why. Quote something of value that ChatGPT doesn't write. Like, show me what you've researched. All of you out there, you're obliged to yourselves. You really are obligated to yourselves, but also your next of kin to keep your head full of knowledge. Keep your guts intact so that you've got guts to fight the outside world. Keep yourselves in as good a shape as you possibly can, and be useful. Be useful. I see a lot of people who just aren't useful after 65 years of age. They give up. They sit in front of the TV and do nothing. Unfortunately, that was my father. He gave up at 35. Sat in front of the TV. I have no recollection of him not sitting on his ass watching TV. Not the life for me. Not interested in a chair and a television set. So don't do that. He ended up dying exceptionally painfully at age 67. Too young to go. But when you don't take care of yourself, that's what happens. Take care of yourselves. And one more thing, everyone. And I know that many of you are hypercritical of me when I am hypercritical of those who don't take care of themselves. Too bad. If you don't take care of yourself, you are going to be a burden to you, but worse, to your supposed loved ones. So if you actually care about your loved ones, people, keep yourselves in good shape and fill your head with knowledge. Don't run away from knowledge. Run towards knowledge. It's a good thing. I love knowing the stuff that I know. Next slide. So we've got someone here who doesn't know how to present an argument. Ski Japan Brian. What a bunch of bull. How can the government put a lien on your home when they don't have an offer done any services? Okay, so I think he was trying to say, how could the government put a lien on your property if they've done no services for you? Okay, it's kind of a valid question, but he did not understand what the video was about. The government cannot just arbitrarily put a lien on your house. They have to beat you in court. They have to follow the court's rules. Otherwise, you can have it reversed and you can sue them for large sums of money. Next one. This old lady, Maureen Schuell, says, glad you're not my lawyer. Well, I'm not a lawyer. How many times I got to say that I'm not a licensed lawyer? And I'm glad she's not my client because this is someone, again, who did not pay attention. So for those who are joining us late here, I am talking about the fact that I got some ridiculous commentary from lawyers and from the public about B saying when you have a paid off house. The Canadian government is going to try in some way to get their hands on it. So register your two corporations, one to put the house into and another one to sue the holding company and put a $20 million lien against the property. So all the equity is burned up in that lien. It's a lien that you control. That's what I said. I don't think people actually listen anymore, but here we are. Next, RJ Interiors. But if you do this, you have to pay capital gains on it when you sell for more than what you bought it. In addition, you're having to pay for two companies' accounting. Why not just get a HELOC against the property, which is a home equity loan? Why? Why get a home equity loan if you can put a lien against your own property? And who says I'm doing taxes on two corporations? These tax returns would be nothing because both of them are going to be holding companies. There are no taxes to be done aside from a null tax return. So getting a home equity line of credit, the only way for that to work is you'd have to get a home equity line of credit for 100% of the value of your property. They won't give that to you. And then you have to withdraw it all and make payments and pay interest. The whole idea of putting a lien on your own property is to protect it with a lien and not pay any interest. Why does everybody want to pay the bank interest? My God, no. Home equity loans, not a good idea. Paul Warding says, 50% capital gains in the numbered company when you sell. I don't know where he got 50% from, but again, if I'm your tax guy, there are no capital gains. You are not obligated to report them. The next comment that was made, Rod CDT says, don't do this. Taxman will love you if you do. You will lose your capital gains exemption for a primary residence. You will need to pay land transfer tax and you won't be protected. It's not an arm's length deal, and the courts would consider it a fraudulent conveyance. Again, everyone, you don't have to tell the Canada Revenue Agency anything about the sale of your property. So there are no capital gains. It doesn't matter. And a fraudulent conveyance, it has to be proved in court. You don't just go to jail because someone says, oh, we think it's fraudulent. You got to prove that. And that takes a long time in the courts, everybody. So it's not like someone just says, oh, that's a fraudulent conveyance. We don't want that there anymore. And they get their way. That is not how it works at all. Next comment. Steve Nelson. The only person is good enough to do stuff like that have a home and put it into a business name with rich people, most poor people out there can't get away with it because if they need a mortgage, the bank is going to say, sorry, if you buy this in your name, I will give you a mortgage. If you buy in a corporation, sorry, you're going to have to go elsewhere. Okay, so he makes a point. It's not very well written, but he makes a good point. The point would be that we are talking about a house that's paid off. I wasn't talking about mortgages today at all. I'm saying if you're out there, Canada, and your house is paid off, you need to protect it with a lien. Your property goes into a numbered corporation. Forget about this stupid exemption that everyone keeps saying, yeah, but the primary residence exemption. So what? Shut up. Protect it or lose it. Your call. It's your house. If you want to throw it away, I'm not going to stop you. Throw it or just get rid of it. But if you want to protect it, I'm telling you how. So if you have a paid off house, one more time, your paid off house goes into a numbered corporation. You have a second numbered corporation. You are not the director of it. That one sues the first one and you put a lien on your property. Hoagie says, I looked up the word shall and it means mandatory. It actually does not mean mandatory in civil law. Civil or civic law, absolutely not. And mandatory doesn't mean must. So you got to look that one up. Go to Black's Law Dictionary, read those terms, and then get a good lawyer to interpret that for you. Not the garbage running around Canada right now. Next one. David Christian says, WTF dude. Here's the answer. Yes, banks are legally obligated to freeze your account if the Canada. Oh, this is unrelated. This guy was making a comment about banks. I'm telling all of you the truth here. Is banks are not legally obligated to give the Canada Revenue Agency your money. If the CRA sends them a requirement to pay letter and the bank gives the money over, you can charge them criminally and sue the bank. So this guy pipes up and says, yes, Canadian banks are legally obligated to freeze your account if the Canada Revenue Agency issues a requirement to pay notice, which is a legal document instructing the bank to freeze the account and remit funds to the CRA to cover outstanding tax debts. This action can be taken by the CRA without a court order. Anyone can write a letter that says you are required to pay without a court order. It's a letter. But without a court order attached to it, it's not enforceable. All right? So when the bank gives your money to the CRA, sue them. Breach of trust, theft. Yeah, that's what I'm saying here, everybody. The banks are not legally obligated. Nobody out there is legally obligated to do anything the government says without a court order. I just went through this today with the Labor Board of the province of Ontario for a corporation I purchased. They want me to give them a whole bunch of paperwork because someone complained. And I let, like, it was a profanity laden letter that I sent them. No, and just no, you can pay me for my time. Pay me. You give me $150,000 and you'll get the paperwork that you want. I have no contract with the province of Ontario. I'm not doing what you say because you're quoting clause 91 subsection 6 of the Ontario Labor Board Commission's nonsense. I don't work for the province of Ontario. I don't work for the CRA. I do not work for the Canadian government. I'm not doing anything that any of these parties say. And all of you out there can do the same thing. Say no. The answer is no. So the banks choose to steal your money and they choose to give it to the CRA. All right, everyone. This individual here, another lawyer. We're almost done. This guy, Vino for life for me. He says he's a lawyer. I went to his Instagram page. It had something like 30 followers and a photograph of some bottles of wine. Okay, great. So not a very good lawyer, probably an alcoholic. He says, moronic. I'm a real estate lawyer. Ooh, are you now? First, you lose the principal residence exemption. How many people said that tonight? Second, the $20 million lien wasn't advanced. It isn't a lien you can place on a property unless it's a builder's lien, which is a statutory instrument. Okay, so what if you called your company JXFMSP042 Construction Limited? So now it's a construction lien. Just like that. It's all arbitrary paperwork. All right. So he says, so if no money advanced against a $20 million lien, and then the laughy face with the tears, like he says, there is nothing to pay out. There's no priority on title. If you manufactured a fake debt, then that's fraud. This guy is not a lawyer because that is what he is suggesting is both insane and illegal. Real estate lawyers are useless in Canada. Absolutely useless. All of you, if you're a real estate lawyer in Canada, I hate you. You're cowards. All of you are cowards. You suck at what you do. The problem with, let me tell you this. Okay, I'm going to tell you what's really going on with real estate lawyers in Canada. Do not ever let a real estate lawyer do your real estate deal for you. Don't ever, 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 ever let them take the money, period. So when you sell a house, someone's got to give you the money for the house. And everyone out there wants to use a lawyer, a real estate lawyer. So the real estate lawyer will convince you that he has to hold the money. He'll say, well, it's the law. It's not the law at all. It is not the law to turn your money over to some lawyer who says he wants it. Then what they'll do is they will look at the records of the house and they'll pay the CRA and they'll pay the bank and they'll pay anyone else that's got a lien on the property. And they'll give you nothing. And they'll say, well, we have to. It's the law. It's not the law. It is not the law. Okay? It is not. Here's what I do for my clients now. When you sell your house, the person who's writing the check writes the check to my corporation. The money goes in the bank. Guess who I pay first? You. That's right. You get everything. I don't care about any of the liens on the property at all, except for the mortgage. But now the house is changing hands. And I've got the money for the mortgage. That's when I start calling the banks up saying, hey guys, ooh, look at this carrot. I got cash. I got money. You know, it's $180,000 here. And you say it's 180 grand owing. I'm not giving it to you. No, we'll do a deal. 110. What do you say? You'd be amazed when the banter goes back and forth, how often the banks will actually take a lesser amount to walk away from the whole deal. Yeah, lawyers won't do that because real estate lawyers are complete cowards. Cowards. We can't find any real estate lawyers anywhere in Canada who want to actually make money. I swear to God, they're all afraid to make money honestly by working hard. They just want to tell all of you that it's the law that they have to take your money from you. It's not the law. You get to choose who holds your money. And that's a fact. So this Vino guy, I replied to him and he comes back with a really stupid answer. And I replied one more time saying, listen, buddy, you're not a real estate lawyer if you're promoting wine drinking. So why don't you tell me what this is really all about? So what does he do? He finds an article about me online and just puts a link to an article where the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation calls me racist. That's how people, lawyers, that's how a lawyer wins a debate. Look, CBC doesn't like Canada, Kevin. Literally, that's what he did. So, block, gone, don't care. Yeah. And no, he won't debate me. I can promise you this. There's not a lawyer out there who's going to debate me. But for everybody who's watching right now, all of you, after the show is done tonight, to type in freedomreport.ca. I want you to sign up. Everyone who's watching, please make sure you have subscribed to me on freedomreport.ca. That's Rumble, which is competition to YouTube. I put a video up today. It's this one here, where I prove that the accountant for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers football team is a complete and total beta cuck, coward, loser, CRA compliant dork, which he is. So this guy here, I asked him a whole bunch of questions about taxes and about filing criminal charges against the CRA. He says, oh, no, no, I would never do that. No. Oh, yeah, you guys got to hear it. It's about a 20-minute conversation. He's pathetic. So if the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are watching right now, if you guys actually want to make money, which the CFL does not do, let me be your tax guy. You'll make a fortune. You guys have stadiums that you can fill on a weekly basis. That marketing part's up to you. My job is to make sure you keep every single penny of your revenue. If this Mark Jones guy is doing your taxes, well, you're not going anywhere. And we've had more than 10 clients come to us from this guy because he screws up their taxes so badly. So everybody who's currently watching, I need everyone, when we're done here, to go to freedomreport.ca and subscribe. And for everyone who's wondering about my Instagram channel, it is Kevin J. Johnston Forever. That's right. Kevin J. Johnston Forever. The word, not the number 4. The word. Kevin J. Johnston Forever. I don't know. It's like 7,300 followers right now or something. So I want to say thank you to everyone who's been following me. I really, really, really do appreciate that. All right. We got a few more slides to cover, and then we're going to take questions. All right. This R. McCann 9 says, CRA has the power and authority of the courts to force you to pay money. They don't put you in jail, but they can seize your assets. Again, no, they do not have the authority of the courts. They go to tax court, which is not a court. It's a tribunal, and tribunals have nothing in the way of power. Next, Jassing Colling McNaughton says, no, they can freeze your bank account and they can legally go in and start taking money that you owe them. So don't listen to this guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Take it from people who actually had dealings with the CRA. I was $50,000 in debt to the CRA, and trust me, they froze my effing account. Okay. Did you appeal it? Did you file criminal charges? Did you redo your taxes at a loss? Did you do anything? Or did you just let them keep the money? So, sweetheart, I know what I'm talking about. You, on the other hand, should have done something to protect yourself, such as soon as you know you owe tax dollars, empty out your bank account. As soon as the CRA says that you owe money, drain your bank account. Drain it right on the spot. Just get rid of it. Like, pull everything out. And they can't have it. And the last one. Cbroad22 says, yeah, leeches that suck money out of the economy deserve to skip taxes. You are scum. Sending you all of my hate. I think what he was trying to say is that if I take money away from the Canada Revenue Agency and give it back to the taxpayer, that somehow is bad for the economy? I think that would be good for the economy, don't you? If 1 million Canadians got all their tax money back, think about how much spending they would do. Think about that. The economy would start to pick up. Canadians aren't spending money anywhere because they don't have it. The CRA is taking absolutely all of it, and my job is to get all of it back. So everyone, now you know what the opinions of these so-called lawyers are. And for those out there who care, I'm telling all of you that Canadian lawyers suck. They don't know what they are doing, and they are all afraid of the CRA, and they are all afraid of the various legal, how do you call them? The law societies. Thank you. They're afraid of that. There are just so many rules put in front of lawyers now that they just capitulate. They're sheep, just like the average citizen, but they play in this arena, this court system that took the English language and created a brand new dictionary and then redefined every word that they could possibly think of to redefine, to trick the public into thinking that the book that they use in the courts is the same book, so the same language that is used in real life, and it's not. It's deceptive and it's criminal, and I can't stand the Canadian courts for that. They sicken me to no end. The people who work in it sicken me to no end. You know, there was once this really stupid girl gets into an elevator with me in the Brampton courthouse. And she's wearing that dumb black gown that the Crown attorneys wear. And she says, oh, you know, everyone looks at me really dirty. And when I say I'm a Crown attorney, everyone gets angry with me. I don't get it. I said, would you like me to answer that for you? She goes, well, yeah. I said, well, think about this. You get paid 6 figures to put all of us in prison. You're making sure that all of us stay there if we do not know the exact legal phrase to say. None of us understand the language that you're using currently, and almost no Canadians out there can afford lawyers. So you are part of this little circle where you have customers who are coming here and they don't want to be here. In order for you to get customers, you have to send these guys out. And I pointed to a couple of Peel Regional Police office losers with guns. You got to send these guys out to go and point guns at people, kidnap them, assault them, and put them in your basement, to put them then in your courtroom where you will tell someone that we don't know and have never contracted with that we need to do jail time. You're doing all of this, and we, the taxpayer, are paying you to do this to us. Do you not comprehend why you're not liked? I just, when the elevator stopped, I said, good day to you, madam, and I walked out the door. They really are that stupid. People who work for the Canada Revenue Agency do not understand why the public hates them. People who work in the courts do not understand why they are hated. It's weird, don't you think? So for those you losers who work for the CRA and losers who work for the Peel Regional Police Force who are watching right now, and I know you are, you people, and I'm saying that, you people suck. You are criminals. Your entire existence is about scamming decent people out of their hard-earned money and giving them nothing in return for it. Nothing at all. Which is why, fortunately for Canadians, I exist teaching all of them how to keep their money, and especially to keep their money away from all these crooks who want it and want to give nothing for it. All right, so we're just going to start taking some questions here, everybody. And if anyone's got a question, just go ahead, ask it in the chat in any of the social media that you're currently watching on. Let me just head over to, all right, so on YouTube, we have, how do you contact me? Yes, so Samia, head over to my website, kevinjjohnston.com. Use the contact form, please. I rarely check direct messages on social media. We have too much social media. I'm about to have another 40 accounts at least. I just can't keep up with it. So use the website if you could. I really appreciate that. And I'm in the Rumble room right now. Red Troca says, how do you remove real estate property ownership from an operating corp that has shown ownership on previous financial statements without paying capital gains taxes? By simply transferring it. It's a simple transfer from one to another. MZ Giggles says, hey, Kevin, listening to your podcast, CRA believes I owe them $4,000. However, I haven't filed in 2 years. If I contact them, can I say, give me another 21 days to continue doing it? You can ask for 120 days if you want. And I would also recommend in that time that we get your taxes done and set your tax bill to 0. Okay, hold on a second there. Hoagie says, I'm sorry to ask again, but I can't verify the double meaning of the word shall. All right. Hey, everybody, go to my website, the old one. It's still there. It sucks, but it's still there. The old website, my name, kevinjjohnston.me. And on there, there's a section where you can download my audiobook, Masks Are Bullshit. That's the one the cops arrested me for, but they let me go 2 hours later. And in there, I have a whole chapter explaining the word shall. So if you want the ebook, use the coupon code KJJ Instagram 1, and it's free. If you want the audiobook, it's KJJ Instagram 2, and it's free. There's a whole chapter in there on shall. Now, the reason that you cannot use shall in modern law writing is because it's considered archaic language, like poppycock and balderdash and tercel and phraseologies that you'd never use anymore, like top of the morning to ya, and so on. Language changes and language evolves. And the word shall is too broad a definition for it to actually have a true definition. So in criminal law, shall means must. In civic law or civil law, it's a suggestion. So when someone says, I shall do something, I tell them all the same thing. You shall kiss my ass, and both of us are going to be disappointed today. It is really that simple. Download my book, Masks Are BS, and you'll see what I'm talking about there. It's an exceptionally well-written chapter. I worked hard on that book, by the way, very hard. All right. Hello, Sia. Thank you for being here. Fit Chick 88 says, the CRA says I owe $40,000. They got my employer to garnish a portion of my wages on each check. I need to hire you. I owe nothing. We have to put an injunction notice onto your boss. If you're an employer and you actually garnish your staff's wages because the CRA says so, you're a coward and you're a criminal. You're scum. You're filth. Your staff are your number one assets. People are your asset, especially if you've trained them well and they're a loyal employee. How friggin' dare you steal money from your staff and give it to the CRA? You know what they do? They send out a requirement to pay letter, and they always say, if you don't give us this money, we may audit you. But like I've shown you, audits don't happen if you ban the auditor from your location. You cowards. Anyone who does this is a coward. So you can actually sue your boss because that requirement to pay is not a court order. So sue your boss for tort theft, breach of trust, because he gave your information away, obviously, to the CRA, and you'll probably win. And then tell him, like, listen, you owe me this money. I don't care that you gave it to the CRA. That was your choice. But you still owe me my entire check. I hate employers that do this. Cowards. Where are all the real men? They're gone, it seems. I don't want to get sued. I don't want to get audited. I'm in the CRA. That's what you sound like. Loser. Loser. If you steal from your staff, you're a loser. All right, let's go back to the Rumble chat room here. All right, so I had a few people here agreeing with me that high school is pointless. Wonderful. No more taxes. When you purchase a corporation, what happens to the bank account? I don't want them. When someone sells me a corporation, I tell them all the same thing. Drain your bank accounts. I don't want them. Close them down. As soon as we do the deal, go close the bank accounts down. I couldn't care less about them. Not interested in dealing with any of them. Just give me your corporations, guys, and I'll take over all your debt for you. All righty, let's go back now to some of the other questions here. All right, so we've got some people that are asking, I suppose, on Instagram here for a video question here. Don Archer says he's got a question. So Don, I'm going to invite you to come on in live and you can ask your question. Let me just make sure the volume is way up. Yep, it is. on, Don, get in here fast, because anybody who wants to ask a video question on Instagram, I'll certainly entertain that tonight. All right. Yajabar says, do I pay tax to remove my name from a vacant lot in Alberta? Do you pay tax to remove? No, you would remove your name. It's a good idea to remove your name from any land that you own and put it into an actual numbered corporation. You definitely want to make sure you're doing that. But you're not going to pay tax to do that. I don't fully understand the question, Yajabar. If you want to rephrase that, please, I'll certainly address it. Lee Mark says, question, can I move a rental property into a new holding company if the property has a mortgage? Yes, you can. You can always move any property out there, anywhere at all. The lien will go with it, which means the mortgage stays on the property, because your mortgage is not against you. It's against the property itself. So yes, you certainly can do that. And I highly recommend, if you have the means, that you should do so. All right. So I've covered everything I wanted to cover tonight. If anyone else has any questions here, I most certainly would not mind addressing them. And if we don't get any more questions in the next couple of minutes, we'll cut this thing off at 4 minutes to go. So your call. If we stay late, I need some questions here. If all of you are shy, that's no problem. We can pick this up again next week. There we go. So Hoagie's asking, are you familiar with the old DTax website? I don't think that I am, but if you want to send me the link, I'll certainly check that out. Dan says, I would like to hire you. I got credit card debt that I'd like to be brought down. My taxes redone for 10 years and start a corporation because I just started to be self-employed. All right, everyone. So when we do this here, credit card debt can be brought down. Now it's a little complex, and in some cases, the credit card debt itself might mean that you actually lose the card. We have to negotiate with the credit card companies and state that our client is having some difficulty here, and we can get that reduced. But as for being self-employed, you always want to make sure that you're doing that inside of a corporation so that you never have to pay tax again for the rest of your life. And I did cover that on a show where we get a brand new numbered corporation for you, and you never do your first tax return. You never do your first HST return. And that way you get a chance to keep all of your money. You're not obligated to do the first return. And if you do the first tax return, then guess what happens, everyone? You start paying tax. If you don't do the first one ever, you don't pay tax. I think someone has a video question here. Flawless restoration. Okay. We're going to bring you in there, buddy. If you want to come on in now, please. And SD, yes, I am seeing the YouTube questions. We're just going to see what happens here. Here we go. Good day, sir. Things are good. What's your question? Are you talking personal or corporate? Sole proprietorships. Okay, so sole proprietorships are very dangerous, everybody, because they are connected directly to your social insurance number. So essentially what a sole proprietorship is, you're just taking you and putting a fake business name on it. All right, so the sole proprietorship it's got a couple of uses. If, for example, you want to take out all your RRSP. So for our American friends, that means registered retirement savings plan in Canada. I would register a sole proprietorship for you and then load up all your expenses in the following tax year to get you back all of your taxes that you paid when you withdrew the RRSP. But if you have a sole proprietorship, my friend, then what I need to do is look at your taxes, because they will just be personal tax. And we have to add every single expense that the previous accountants were too chicken to do. Everything, marketing, tools of the trade, vehicle expenses, fuel, rent. If you work from home, no problem. We can write off the foyer, half the kitchen, one full room for an office, the main floor bathroom, and parking for at least one car. We can write all that off during the year. Internet, cell phone, 1/3 of your electrical and your water, all that gets written off as business expenses. Now, anything at all to do with the tools of the trade. And in most cases, we start off with the basics. Tools of the trade would be clothing. I'm right now wearing a $10 t-shirt. It's a tool of the trade, because if I put a suit jacket on here in Panama, I boil. This shirt is going to be written off as a tool of the trade. This lovely glass here that contains water, I could write that off. It's part of my set. A lot of people laugh about the fact I drink water. I can write the glass off. We got to write everything off for you. And I mean everything, plus your marketing expenses that you probably forgot about. And remember, when I am writing off personal taxes, I'm going to be looking at all your legal costs, and I'll be looking at all your medical expenses. You know, when we're dealing with your taxes, don't be shy. Just tell me every single thing that you've done medically. Dentistry, if you had some physiotherapy because you hurt yourself, if you had to buy a knee brace or a back brace, all of that counts towards medical expenses. Every last part of it. Does that sound about what you're trying to achieve there? Okay, well, there's the hearing aids, but then there would also be the therapy that goes with it. Yeah, and even if your therapist is just your bartender, it doesn't matter. You're still getting therapy, you know. It's all right. So anybody can be your therapist. The term therapist is not a clinical term. It's not a licensable title. It's just you're a therapist, right? That's it. So we got to write everything off and get your tax bill as close to zero as we possibly can. Sorry, are we able to do that for you? Is that the question? Well, absolutely. That's what we do here. So personal taxes, just so you do know, we're booked up. It's right now June 24th. We're booked up until August the 3rd. I could start your personal taxes in the first week of August if you wanted to sign up with that. And all you got to do, just head over to my website, Kevin J. Johnston, my name, kevinjjohnston.com, and use the contact form. That's it, folks, because I just don't have time to check DMs on social media. There's so many comments that come in. Like my TikTok channel is about 2,000 comments a day now. I can't get to all of that. If anybody who really is serious about getting their tax work done, just use my website. I appreciate that. All right. Well, I appreciate that. Well, we all feel the same way. That's for damn sure. Okay, my friend. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Yes, you too. Thanks. Take care. Bye. All right. So we got some question marks popping up here on the screen. Okay, 1 second there. And I think that my little thing might be a bit too fat for this. I'm using this pen tapper here. All right. So what if you received CEBA and you want to get rid of it? The CEBA loan, just so everyone knows what that is, Canadian Emergency Response A. What was the A? I don't know, something, whatever it is. It's a bank loan. It's a loan. They gave away $60,000 to companies during that fake COVID nonsense. And now they're asking for it back from almost everybody. So if you have a corporation with a CEBA loan on it, sell me the corporation and I'll take that off your hands. I take the whole debt with it. Whenever I buy a corporation, everything, GST, HST, PST, payroll, income tax, lawsuits, disputes with anyone, anywhere in the world, anything that's going to cost you money, I take all those debts and liabilities away from you. So that's how we get rid of that debt for you. Can I write off a guard dog? I would. Yeah. Oh, God, man. friend of mine's got two, and he's blowing $600 a month on raw meat for his dogs. Of course, you want to write that off. If you've got a guard dog, or guard dogs plural, protecting a business property, you absolutely write those off. Vet bills, even shampooing, get it all done. Kim says, what do you do when you have already established a corporation? I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. Could I get a bit more detail, please, if you don't mind? Now let's go over to a couple of questions here. Alrighty, so SD is saying, I sent you a message with my situation. The CRA is asking for proof to give me the refund. What has to be done there? All right, CRA is doing this from time to time. They want proof of expenses and whatnot before they give you your refund. But what we do is we utilize section 231.1 of the Income Tax Act that states that without an active investigation, they can't even legally ask you for it. So I have to send in a non-compliance letter on your behalf to get that nonsense to end. SD says they're asking for the rent, and my wife calls tuition fees sent by fax. Yeah, we don't do that. We just send them off the letter, my friend, and that letter is non-compliance. I do not want anybody out there complying with the CRA. You're not obligated to prove what you claim. There's no obligation to prove it at all. And under section 231.1, that's what stops it dead in its tracks. Christian Mason says, is it 10 years or 20 years on redoing taxes? I've heard both. I can do both, guys. I can go back 20 years on your taxes, but you have to ask yourself, is it going to be worth it? Because it's $2,500 per tax year for corporate and $950 per year for personal. Do you think you're going to get enough out of it? Before you throw money at me, ask yourself that question. If you think you will, believe me, I'll do the work. What happens when I am no longer your representative? Well, the only way for me to exit what I do, to exit harming the CRA, is for the CRA to put a bullet in my head. That's the only way, folks. And they don't have the balls for that. I'm not one bit worried about it. Dan Gulitson says, I think I have a booking this coming Monday the 30th. Not sure if I did it right, but I'm looking forward to talking to you. I'm also looking to get out of Canada and buying a place in Mexico or Panama. Well, I mean, I'm having a blast in Panama. I'm having a great time here in Panama. It's cheap. My living expenses are cheap, folks. $7,000 a year. That's it. I love it. Mexico's pricey. Panama's not. Jacqueline, 3 years ago, CRA put $22,000 disability reimbursement in my bank account instead of Desjardins. Nowadays, I owe $5,000 taxes on it. Okay, so we can fix that by putting forward medical expenses. That's it. So if you have disability of any kind, your medical expenses would be a write-off. ST says, I'm an employee. I filed my taxes for the first time. CRA asked for proof of the rent I paid. Yeah, we don't do that. Like I said, we do not prove anything to them. Dan, is there anybody in Alberta around Lloydminster that you can recommend to get started in a corporation and do it properly? Yeah, us. You guys know that, like, I still have property all over Alberta, right? Yeah, my team, about half my team is in Alberta. Yeah, we can do that for you, Dan. No problem at all. Can I legally get anyone a higher refund? Yes. Everything I do is legal, folks. I run every crazy idea that I have. I run it through my lawyer. You know why the cops are so crazy about me in Canada? Is because they want to arrest me. They want to get the smile off my face. They want me to disappear, stop talking. They want all of that, but they can't charge me with anything because I phone my lawyer in advance and I say, hey, Ian, is this illegal? Is what I'm doing considered illegal? And as soon as he says, nope, then I do it. So everything I do, I clear with lawyers before lawyer singular, before I do it. Kathy says, I've been taking care of my mom who's 86. I basically do everything a PSW would. Is there a tax benefit I should apply for? Oh, yeah, there is. There is an elderly care tax benefit, but it's really not that much. You're better off having me redo your mother's taxes for the last 10 years and get back as much as I can on that one. Open up a corporation to take care of your mother. Actually, Kathy, I'm going to have a private conversation with you about that one. All right, I'm not going to say anything here because The CRA is not going to like what I say. I don't really care, but that'll be a private one if you want to hire me. Kim says, I have a corporation established for 5 years and a sole proprietor registered since 2012. Is it possible for me to continue operating my business and pay taxes? Well, if you've got a sole proprietorship and a corporation, I would be moving all of your income from you personally into your corporation and have you shut down the sole proprietorship. That's the way I would do that. You want to make sure that you kind of pick one. You don't do both. You don't have a proprietorship and a corporation. Is you just confuse yourself and confuse them. And the CRA, well, they're very easily confused. How do you confuse a CRA representative? Any of them, even an auditor. Put them in a round room and tell them to pee in the corner. That's what you do. These people are morons. But a lot of you out there still want to make it easy for them. Let's not do that. Okay? Fit Chick 88. Should I sue the CRA individual plus CRA as a whole? 2 separate lawsuits, personally sue the auditor? Absolutely, you should. If you personally sue the auditor and not the CRA will not protect them. The CRA will not cover the expense for their lawyer. You always should sue the individual. MZ giggles. Would the CRA know about Tangerine? Eventually, yes, they would. The only real protection for keeping money in Canada is to have a numbered corporation that's considered a holding company. And you just put all your money into that holding company. If that holding company never does business, then it'll never have a tax bill and you'll never lose your money. All right. Someone's suggesting a consumer proposal. Those are like bankruptcy. They are the last possible thing to do. The last possible thing. I never go to consumer proposals because I can't stand trustees. They're crooks. They double dip. They get paid by the government and by you, and typically give you all the wrongest possible advice. We don't need them in our lives. How do I pay off my personal line of credit quickly without taking money out of my business and pay all the income tax? Who says you pay income tax on your business? That's another one of those problems where you're taking money out of your business account and you're telling the CRA what you're doing. It's your business. If you want to pay stuff off early, take the money out of your bank account and pay it and keep your mouth closed about that. Stop talking. Stop telling the truth. There is nothing to gain by telling the CRA the truth, period. They'll just punish you for it. So don't do that. Don't tell them. Just take the money, pay off the house. All right. Are irrevocable trusts effective in Canada? Sure, but they're really expensive. They're like 40 grand. You don't need them. The individual numbered corporation typically is good enough. It really is good enough. All right. I haven't filed taxes in 9 years, and I only have a couple of T4s for filing in those years. Could we do a percentage split to file for those years? It's probably the least complex. I'm not sure what you're referring to with a percent symbol split. Could you clarify that, please? No more taxes. Chat GPT says, when share sale of corporation, the director of period tax debt payroll, his director can still be held liable. Is it true? Cannot. Absolutely cannot. Share sales, when I take over a company, we do a due diligence report and I accept all of the liabilities. So once there's an acceptance of liability, it belongs to me. I bought the debt. They have to chase me for it. CSR says, question, when you switch to corporations, what do you file for personal tax? 0? Nothing. Who says you have to report personal tax? If you're going to own a corporation, just run the corporation and stop declaring personal tax. You don't have to do it. Like, put it down 0. It's really that easy. Story says, as long as you live in your residence, are you protected against rental income taxed? And at what point does it make sense to claim? It never makes sense to claim your rent. Why would you do that? What's the net gain to you? Could I get everyone to maybe sit down like a swami, cross your legs over each other, and ask, no, what's the advantage to telling the CRA that I have a rental property with rental income, or will I get any benefit from that? Like, just ask yourself these questions. I don't care how you do it, but start asking yourself, is there anything to gain if I do this? Is there anything to gain if I put this thing in my ear and shove it in? Would there be anything at all to gain if I jumped off of this balcony right now without a parachute? Anything to gain? No. Well, then I'm not doing it. Is there anything to gain by telling the CRA that I have renters in my house? Come on. All of you can answer that question for you. Of course, the answer is nothing. There is nothing to gain. There's no gain at all when you snitch on yourself with any government agency, period. Alrighty. SD says, I paid $15,000 of taxes last year and the CRA is supposed to refund $5,000. Can you legally get me a higher refund? Well, yeah, SD, you've got to have expenses that I can use. You know, one of the big expense reports that everybody forgets is the T2125 form in Canadian tax law. This law, or this form, was brought in. I'm sorry, I really do forget the revenue minister that was doing this, but there was a guy that was running around downtown Toronto who was trying to get hookers to pay income tax. And the one thing that they had cooked up for this was the T2125 form. The hookers said no. The strippers said yes for some reason. And so did waiters and wait staff and whatnot. So what you would have here is a 2-page form. Page 1 is how much money did you make as a part-time clerk or a part-time waiter, and how much did you get in tips? But everyone forgets about page 2. Page 2 is how much did you spend to earn that extra money? So one of my clients ended up spending $220,000 one year on farm equipment to make $3,000 in selling hay. Right? So he got the full write-off, the T2125 form. That form was their idea, not mine. We just used it to our advantage. You can do the exact same thing. All right. Armadante says, that's exactly what happened to me. I've been in bankruptcy for 7 years, just pressed them to get an early discharge from the DOJ after I became compliant. All right. This is a common thing. The CRA is not allowing people out of bankruptcies. They're not doing the final discharge, which is kind of criminal. So one of the things that we do with the bankruptcy as such is if it's a CRA debt, I go back and I redo all the years that led to the bankruptcy, all of them. I go right back. We find every legal write-off that we can possibly put in there to wipe out that debt in the first place. And then their incapacity or lack of desire to discharge you is irrelevant because now you no longer owe any tax. Is there any advantage using the Smith maneuver to write off interest on my primary residence? Well, if I'm your tax guy, it's pointless because you're not going to be paying a lot of tax anyway. You know, we're going to put so many expenses on your tax report that you wouldn't end up paying tax at all. And so the Smith maneuver, which is a lot of work, is not relevant. Yeah, the answer is yes, you can do it, but I don't do it because it's not necessary. I want to make sure that we keep your house as separate from the CRA as we possibly can. So introducing the Smith maneuver there is just you making the distance a little closer between your house and the CRA. Something to consider. Okay, so for everybody that wants to do any kind of split on tax returns, we still have a lot of people that we're doing this on. So unfortunately, I can't take on any new ones for that right now. Probably going to be October before we can do it again. We don't want to get swamped and or behind on that. And we have a lot of obligations to clients who have already paid. Now, I'm running a business here, and this is not me insulting anyone. Please do not take it that way. But anybody that pays us to get their taxes done goes directly to the head of the line, straight to the front of the line. We've had clients that want to go 50-50 where we get tax money back and we split it. It's a lot of work, and the payouts come between 1 and 10 months later. And we can't dedicate that much time to something where the payout's going to be 10 months down the road. I like it when those checks come in 10 months down the road. But right now, we just can't do it, unfortunately. So hold on to your tax file. We could do it again late summer, early fall. Okay. So Mixed Fortune says, I also need to set up corps for my grandparents' sole proprietorship, which owns a farm. Oh my God. Okay. Oh my God. Oh. I'm always reminded of that movie Basketball. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. When Robert Vaughn's going, yeah, yeah, like when he's doing that, because the two main characters are really stupid and they're driving him nuts. And that's like whenever someone says that they've got their farm in a sole proprietorship, I'm going, yeah, no. I want to poke holes in my own temples. Farm land needs to be in a corporation. All the farm gear needs to be in a separate corporation. The farm's earnings and expenses need to be in a third corporation. You cannot run a farm out of a sole proprietorship and actually protect yourself from whatever comes in. All right, and I'm talking lawsuits. I'm talking even simple things like a pig gets out of your fence and a car hits it and it breaks the bumper. The sole proprietorship, that's you. Your farm gets sued. But if you have a farm and your animals get out and trash someone's car and someone sues the farm, all we do is take the farm and move the whole thing to another corporation so that they've sued the original corporation that owned it. They got nothing. They got absolutely nothing. Okay. Lecture time. If you do not put your homes, your farms, your condominiums, your cottages, your rental properties, whatever, in numbered corporations, you're going to lose. The CRA is going to pester you and harass you and put those fake liens on your property, and so will the banks. You have to keep your property completely separate from business and the rest of the world. If you have your farm or your house or your property in a numbered corporation, the shareholders agreement, the corporate bylaws dictate who gets the property. There is never any probate, and there are no lawyers involved. There is no land transfer tax changing hands. Nothing gets paid when you've got your house in a numbered corporation and your shares just default to your next of kin if that's what the bylaws say. You cannot have a farm in a sole proprietorship and be protected. And I know that there's a lot of farmers out there. And look, God bless you for feeding cities, but you guys really do piss me off. Because here's what happens with a lot of farmers is they still think it's 1950. And it's not. And for a farmer, I guess a really cool thing is having a combine. But those have been around since the 50s as well. So it's not like that's something new. You have to think differently. You cannot think for a second that anyone out there is going to respect you because you're a farmer feeding cities. That is not how anyone sees it. And even the people that you are feeding don't care that you exist. So the onus is on you and you and you and you and everyone else listening to this at some other point. The onus is on you to protect what you have. Because if you don't stick your own neck out for yourself, no one's going to stick their neck out to help you when somebody comes calling like the CRA. So for the farmers out there, would you please understand, I salute farmers. The work that you people do is unbelievable. It's a monumental amount of work. It's back-breaking labor. It breaks your body. If you're not careful, it breaks your soul. So why would you not want to protect something that you and your previous family members have worked so hard to build? Protect it. Think a little more modern. got to protect what you have. All right, we're down to our last couple of minutes here. We got one more person wanted to do a video question here. Armadantes, is it? Armas? Okay, come on in. You got 3 minutes to ask your question. We're going to bring him in right now. All right, don't make me sing while we're waiting for you to come in. You got to come in fast. Yeah, we got 3.5 minutes. All right. So Armadantes. So then we'll go with Daryl Rhodes. Daryl, here comes my request. Please accept it right now. We have almost no time left. All right. Yeah, for anybody who's got a farm, we get you into a numbered corporation and we move the farm into the corporation. We want to make sure that that property is completely and totally protected. It just does not make sense, anyone, to not protect what you got. But I mean, that's every single kind of property: commercial property, gymnasiums, empty land, condos, vacation properties, everything. Absolutely everything. All right. How much? Hold on. Mom's Kitchen says, how do you get the bank to give you a credit card or LOC without filing taxes on your corporation? Affidavits. But that is a whole show. Oh, man. I could never answer that in 3 minutes. That's like an hour, a full hour answer. And we will be covering affidavits and legal paperwork in future shows. I can't cover it in such a short period of time. But it's entirely possible utilizing legal documentation as such. Okay, I'm just looking at the last year questions here because we got to get going in just a second. SD is asking in YouTube, how can you hire me? Head over to my website, kevinjjohnston.com. If you're on YouTube, well, there it is right there. Just go ahead and use the contact form there. It's always the superior way to get a hold of me. It's I just do not have time to check all social media private messages. I really wish there was time for that. I just recently hired a full-time gal for this kind of thing. Let's see how well she can do. There's a lot of stuff there. But in the meantime, please utilize my website for that. All right. Well, everybody, I just want to say thank you very much for being here tonight. This has been absolutely fantastic. There's been a lot of interaction. And for those who are looking for the show on TikTok, as I mentioned, I was insulting the Peel Regional Police in Mississauga. They are a joke. And I think that the Peel Regional Police got upset and made a phone call to the head office of TikTok, and TikTok took down my live, calling it hate speech. Absolutely ridiculous, the things that TikTok does. So I'm not live on TikTok tonight. What I may do is I haven't decided yet, but Thursday night, I might do a live just to say hello to all the TikTok fans so that people don't think that I'm giving up on the Tuesday show. I will not be doing that anytime soon. And always remember that on Rumble, everything is archived there. Just type in freedomreport.ca and there's 2,000 videos probably on TikTok there. There's my old political stuff is still there. I archive everything. I don't delete stuff. And anything to do with the CRA will also be there. There's archives of this show. And this show became the Tax and Money Show. I think it was episode 40. It used to be the Real Estate and Money Show, but people don't seem to care about real estate. They care about tax, which makes sense. So it's the Tax and Money Show. There's episodes 40 to 68 are all just like this, where it's an educational program talking about how to never pay tax again. All right. So I want to say thank you, everyone, for being here. My name is Kevin J. Johnston. This is the Tax and Money Show. That is every single Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, live on freedomreport.ca. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you in a week. Good night.